everybody. My name is Deeksha Vora. I am your content queen, and I am back yet again with the second episode of CEO Chronicles. And today we have a very special guest coming on from another side of the world altogether. We have Mr. Craig, who runs a wonderful firm called Elastic Studio. Now, what is Elastic Studio about? Craig runs an agency that helps CEOs brand themselves better and approach their audiences in a more engaged manner. However, Craig's story is as inspirational as this whole concept of Elastic Studio. So Craig started with £100 investment market, £100 only. And today he generates more than $120,000 a year only for himself. So from this to where he is now, how did he navigate this journey? And how does he help startups scale up and do better by presenting themselves nicely? That's what we're going to be talking about. So Craig, welcome to CEO Chronicles.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me here.
It's excellent to have you. So Craig, Craig, your video's gone off.
It has. Let's see what's going on here. Just a second.
Oh yeah. So this is called branding. You show us how nicely you look. Okay, brilliant. Okay. So Craig, we've heard a lot of success stories and so on, but yours is something that is this journey from 100 to 120. Okay, it's huge. So let's actually get started with when you started in 2014. What did you think about? Why did you want to start a branding studio? What is your background?
Great question. So I was lucky enough to work in big ad agencies, Young and Rubicam, publicists, that sort of thing. And I worked there for a couple of decades. I picked up a lot of experience from big brands like Coca-Cola, Schweppes, Renault, Caltech, Shell, tons of them, in all different areas, from banking through to all types of business and that sort of thing. And what I wanted to do was, when I started Elastic Studios, I wanted to be the ideal agency for startups, for CEOs that have a great idea and are starting out. I found that working in the startup space, it was super exciting. It is exciting. It's what I do. And what I try to do is the dream was, let's create a small agency where I hire specialists whenever I need them. So it's a virtual agency. It's just me as a creative director. And I deal with clients' needs. I figure out what they need. I do a little brand review with them first to see what the business needs. And then it's a matter of creating what I create, from a graphic design point of view, web design, videos, brand movies, that sort of thing. So the dream was to start a little agency that is mine, that I can work by myself and add value and make brands, grow, knowing what I know from the big brands, from the top brands in the world. That was the dream.
So I think this is really interesting. Let's talk a bit about how your initial journey was, because the show is actually all about how entrepreneurs have scaled up their business. So you know what, when we start off, some people start off with some investment, some people start off with very little investment, like you and me. Okay, just putting that bit in. So how was the initial journey like? How did you start getting clients? What did you do? To get around and managing just your basic expenses?
Okay, great question. Okay, so when I started, I thought it was going to be much easier, to be honest, because I'd worked in agencies. I knew how to operate in a boardroom. I knew how to sell, all of that good stuff. But what I didn't know was how to sell to entrepreneurs who don't have the big budgets of the bigger brands, and also how to kind of how to show the value you're going to add when you're working. Now, this is across the board, right? You could be anything. You could be IT, you could be whatever it is. But if someone doesn't understand what's in it for the customer, what's in it
And
for them.
especially when you're a new brand, you're not coming from an established brand.
Correct.
You're a startup, then you have to do a lot to explain to them why should people invest with you.
Yes, and you've just raised another point. So firstly, the brand thing is one thing. So portfolio is great, but also another thing is I didn't realize that I had to become the managing director, not just the creative director, but also, and I think Mike spoke about this in the previous podcast, is you've got to be the entrepreneur, which a lot of people don't actually understand what that is.
Yeah.
You have to be the managing director, in other words, work on the business itself, and then you have to work on the work for the clients. So I struggled at first. I ended up doing meetings in a coffee shop with this person, and they didn't show up, for instance. So my major issue, to be honest, when I started was my income was up and down. It was crazy. I'd be earning well one month, and the next it would be kind of, how am I going to cover my
Yeah, yeah,
overheads?
yeah.
It's rock and roll, right? It's like any startup. It's never easy. However, I did work with Michael, who was on last time, and I went into my sales strategy and I learned how to pitch correctly, get my elevator pitch 100%. And basically, what I came up with was a way to get a first couple of clients. For instance, I went on to Upwork, where clients are on, literally looking for people to sort problems out for them. And I started with small gigs there. And I'm happy to say, in my first year, working with, how to get people to understand the value I'm going to add, but also learning to tell stories about what I'd created before, how I'd taken something from here to here. Those kind of things for anyone who's in business. If your pitch is not 100%, but if your pitch is easy, you can tell a short story and say, well, these guys had 9% return on this thing that was delivered to them, and we changed it. We worked on it, and now it's 96% opening rate. That's huge for anyone. So that's the kind of stuff I worked on.
Oh wow, that is nice. So, we all have this we all have this one year, okay, which is a breakthrough year for us, okay, wherein we go from point 0 to point 50, 60 just by the application of certain strategies, like just blows up things for us. So which was that particular year for you, and what strategies do you think helped you grow from that Upwork personality to now sitting and getting big clients and all these big awards up your sleeves?
Okay, so it's a great question. When I started, I was thinking more in mind as a freelancer, because I'd left an agency, so that's what you become as a freelancer, right? But then creating Elastic Studio, creating the website, creating all of those elements around it, I created a brand, which is what I do. And so ultimately, if I think about it this way, getting from year one to where I am now, a big part of it was how I position myself brand-wise. And I like to use the analogy of Tony Stark, who becomes Iron Man, right? And basically, the brand for anyone who has a startup, right? Let's say you're a startup and you're in the AI space and you need to get investment, like $100 million or $50 million. You might be the scientist or the CEO, the person that knows how to do AI, but you need help. And this is where I came in, was what suit do you build for that business? What suit is going to look different? Because a brand is really a business on its best day. A brand is a suit for a business. It's as simple as that, right?
Agreed.
Yeah. And so how, again, going from zero to the big growth was to go, okay, well, what suit it will work for my ideal client, which is a CEO who's with a startup, because the startup is exciting. The maintenance part later is not interesting for me, but making something from nothing is very interesting.
Right.
So yeah. So if you just think about that, like, what would my ideal client, what are they attracted to? And, and I think that's where a lot of businesses maybe fail a little bit is they fall in love with the product they make instead of falling in love with their
And
customer.
then the market fit, understanding what would the clients need. Yes, yes, yes.
That's 100% it. And if you understand your customer
Mm,
perfectly, and you know what, this is the easy thing to do for
yeah.
yourself, right? Think about who your best customer is today
Mm,
and the person you get on well with and the personality that that person is. You know, are they kind of rigid and numbers, or are they more emotional and interested in that sort of thing? You can very easily figure out who's my ideal customer and talk to them. If you can, speak to them, get some time with them, because you then can make something that feels like them and they will
sure.
be attracted to it without knowing why
Mm,
sometimes.
mm,
That's an easy way to sell. And for me, that's what I love doing for clients of mine. CEOs, brilliant at their business,
mm.
but in terms of turning it into the suit of business, that's going to be really attractive for the ideal customer. That's the interesting stuff. That's where I like to play.
So you are saying that the way you positioned yourself, how differently you decided to position yourself, you went niche, you understood
Yes,
how your target audience is, and then you spoke their language. That's what helped.
correct. That's
Okay.
correct.
But I have got to know about something else also in addition to this that helped you scale up, and that is you had revamped your pricing strategies as well. You
Correct.
had, so tell me a little bit more about that. Why and when? At what point did you decide that, okay, you know what, listen, I need to sell big and this is what I need to do?
Yeah. So that's an ongoing process for any business, right? There's always that thing. And again, this is something I learned from Michael, who's your previous guest, which was he was my sales coach, right? And it was as simple as this. If you're competing, take my case, I'm competing against basically any graphic designer or any art director who has a lot of experience. How do I compete with that? Well, and then again, I think about the customer. Forget about me, the customer, right? If a customer can say, okay, I need to get my business going, instead of thinking about things like a project per hour, I was putting together packages. So, like on my website, I'd have a starter launch kit, which is basically your logo, your pitch, getting your URL bought. So I get the .com for that company, even coming up with a name for the company. That's fun. Um, what else? So in that starter pack, you'd have that, you'd have your website set up, and basically you'd have a business ready to roll, ready to do business around the world, a site where people can click and make an appointment with you if that's what it is, or buy something. And so it was kind of that thing. And then there's a makeover package, which is basically for a business that's, let's say, 25 years old. It's a brand, but they're a little bit stale and they kind of realize they need a makeover. And I come in and go, well, here's the package for that. And it involves this, this, and this. And we do it. And there's kind of a fixed cost thing. So this helps because then the CEO can then figure out, okay, they can budget for this. Is the website going to be, is it going to be $6,000? Is it going to be $26,000? Or is the whole package thing going to be $36,000?
Right.
And that's when you come into the pricing thing. And
So, you know
that was
what?
interesting.
I have also realized this in my own business
Yeah,
that, when we go on to selling individual services, we do not, we're not able to scale as much as when we bundle them together and we give like a whole solution to our
correct,
clients. So I
correct.
think this is a very important learning, especially for startups and so on, people who are just starting up, even designers like yourselves or writers, etc., who want to grow big. I think it's a very important learning. Now there's this debate that I've been having very recently with a couple of my colleagues, that is, should a company which is aiming to grow focus on smaller clients who are paying smaller tickets, or like many clients paying smaller tickets, or a few big giants who pay bigger tickets, and you focus on that. So what's your take on this?
It depends. It's like any question you ask in the world, it depends. So if you say you have okay, let's take the first case where you have smaller clients for less budget, but you sell more tickets, right?
Yeah.
then you've got to make sure that you've got an automated system in place, or you're using IT to leverage it so you can deliver cheaply, right? And you have maybe a less skilled staff that can cover doing something basic for many, many people. However, I'm more attracted to the second model, which is less clients, right? It depends. If you're making products like shoes, then you go like China, you make millions of shoes, and that works. But in terms of business, B2B, you know, I, and especially in my field, you want to have maybe less clients, but much more in-depth work with them, and you would have some experts on board, because again, if you get into the expert field on anything, where you can have a track record of what you've done, where you've added value, because ultimately you have to add value, otherwise it's pointless, right?
Yeah, people won't retain.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to add value. So, and that means training every time, like watching lots of YouTube vids on new things, like just learning all the time, you know, no matter how good you become. And so the second one for me, I would say, is the answer in this type of business. But in manufacturing, I would say maybe the first one is a good model.
So I think it really depends on the industries now. Now let's get into the exciting bit, stuff that I love, and that is understanding what role does branding play, okay, with positioning a CEO or a brand, a startup brand, as the go-to brand. Now, Craig, I'm going to put you in a difficult situation now. I want you to talk me through the story by using one of your clients as a reference. Okay? So you
Great.
need to tell me, what is it that you did? What were they? Where have they come now? And just so that we understand, why should we as entrepreneurs invest in branding? Does it really matter?
Great question. So the first thing is when okay, so the question is how, and I'll give you the case study. All right, perfect. So when it comes to a brand, in fact, I work as a creative director for a brand called Registry, and it's a great example, right? That started maybe 5 years ago. It was a CEO and one IT specialist working out of India, and the CEO working out of London, right? I was brought on board to have a look at their website and help with some graphics. So it was kind of one of those pitch deck things to design, and we did some small work, and it was an Upwork gig, by the way. So it was a very small budget, nothing, very simple. But then I used this is the thing I use, this piece of paper here.
Yeah, yeah.
I do a free brand review, right? For the businesses that let's say, because I can pick and choose who I work with now. So I'll have an initial call, and then I'll say, okay, cool, I'll give you a free brand review. And I did it in this case. And what the free brand review is about firstly asking about company info, right? What are they doing? What do they cost? Are they expensive? Are they new? Are they, blah, 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 all of that stuff. What's the ambition? Why they exist? Tough questions like that. Then I go into the product they're selling. Now, in this case, Registry is a really interesting one. Here's the need for it. Here's the why. In the world, there's a new pregnancy happening for humans almost every second that we're alive, right? So now it's been 6 pregnancies have happened since I said that.
Yeah.
Now the problem is medication. There's a huge amount of people on medication, and often they on the medication, like for asthma, like medication you have to take, right? Migraine tablets. There's no information on there about pregnancy and if it's safe to use in pregnancy. So my client decided to create this company to find out and basically do studies. So people are pregnant, they can go on their mobile phone, answer questions all through the pregnancy and when the kid is up to a year old. And we basically get all of this information and we look for trends and we see, oh, hang on, these people on the same medication, and we're seeing an issue here, maybe in the 3rd trimester, right? So as a creative director, my job was to look at the competitors. That was the product, right? Now you've got that. Then figure out, okay, for Registry, what brand do we build for this? We're talking to doctors, we're talking to pregnant women. So how do we do this? And that's when I come to my 3rd part of my brand review. which is brand feeling. And now this part is about the current perception, the desired perception. Where do we want to go? Like, for instance, is this something that's in the United States only, dealing with the FDA, or do we want to be a global brand, which it has become, by the way? Then I do a thing called, I learned this at a place called Circus Advertising in Mauritius. Geniuses there, but I think it's called a Chinese portrait. And I think about your brand. Imagine you're my client sitting here.
Yep.
Say to you, now, if your brand, right, were a brand of automobile, what
Right.
automobile would it be? And this just gets people thinking about, oh, okay, hang on, this business is it a Ferrari, which is very expensive but high performing, or is it more like a VW something
Mm.
where everyone can get on board, a minivan, for
Mm.
instance, where it's a big
Mm.
team thing? So
Mm.
these are the questions I ask to get people to think about their brand without thinking about
Mm.
their brand,
Mm. Mm.
so I went through this whole exercise,
Mm.
and for Registry, created that he already had a logo. Logo is not the brand. Logo is just a part of the brand.
Yep.
And I worked out that the person that this brand is a really experienced international doctor,
Yes.
but has an amazing bedside manner. In other words, can explain a medical condition to an 8-year-old. So that's the approach, is like humanizing the business. Because if you think about it, who does Registry need to speak to? They need to speak to pregnant women who are worried about their medication, and our brand needs to feel like somebody they can share with comfortably and safely. So this is the stuff I love, is personalizing the business, because it's business dating. You have
Yep.
a customer, you have a business. How do you get them to love your business? You have to speak the same language. You have to speak in the correct way. And that's the trick, is doing that. So to finish the story of Registry, we worked all the way through. We came up with a whole lot of COVID studies, all of that sort of stuff. The studies are still happening for years to come.
Of course.
And last year, because I built the brand to feel like it was a high-level brand at the level of Apple, in terms of the design, the feel, the space, white space, all of that stuff, we were, since I'm part of it still, we were acquired by a big company called Correvitas
Wow.
last year. Yes. And so now we're part of a much bigger group of companies. And that's what my mission is. Like, every time I meet a CEO and we start working together, I'll say, okay, cool. What is your end game? What is your ambition? Do you want to be the company that grows and then is bought by Google, for instance? Or do you want to have it where it's yours and it's you and your wife and you run this thing forever and you run it from a yacht, for instance?
Of course, and everyone has a different ambition, and
Correct.
to each his own.
Success.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not always money,
Of
sometimes
course,
it's
it's not
something
money.
else. Sometimes it's freedom.
Yeah.
So I feel like anyone who works with a CEO, anyone that adds value, or anyone who's doing branding, should think about, hang on,
Who I want to get.
yeah. And also, if you think about it, why the CEO, that part is so important, is most companies, if you think about it, are the shadow of one person.
Yeah. Yeah.
No matter how big the team is, it's still one person who sets the direction, so
yeah, leads it for everyone. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, there's a ton of stuff I can talk about on this, as you can hear, but all of these things add up together. So firstly, when I start with this, I do a free brand review. So I'm adding value already. It's free. I'm going to do this anyway, right? It has to be, it's not going to do for a shop on the corner. I'm not going to do that. It's going to be for what I want to work on. Do that so firstly, it's not about me trying to sell something to that customer. It's about me understanding their problem. So this gives me a great insight into like the finances. Honestly, I asked them, what are their billings like, per year? What do you want them to be? Do you want to triple that? Blah, blah, blah. So we talk some numbers, and only then can I put down the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities. And then I go through with the customer and I'll say, look, here are your positives. You've got this, you've got a great name, you've got the .com, you've got a product, blah, blah, blah. Then I'll go through areas for improvement. And that's my work list. So think about it in terms of sales, right? I can talk about why the logo needs work, or the logo is fine. they need a website, they need X, and then these are the things I make, and that's my sales strategy.
Of course. See, I'll tell you what. I've been thinking about all of this for quite some time, and there are with technology, with new ways of communication, there's an increasing need to position yourself in a certain manner
Yeah.
and then communicate with the clients. So, you know what? Something that we do is whenever we create a group, a WhatsApp group with our client to deal with them, what we have now started doing is we've changed the display picture, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And we've changed it to something where we have our brand logo and the customer's brand logo and then shaking hands. So
Cool.
every time the customer is opening the WhatsApp group also, when he's checking out the logo, it's reminding him of us. So,
Yeah, that's great.
there are these small things that, I think that entrepreneurs, if they actually pay attention to, the overall customer experience,
Yes.
okay, when he comes to your website or when he engages with the logo, when he looks at it, what is the thought that comes to his mind? What are the feelings that it evokes, etc.? I think so. Branding has gone out from just being something that, hey, listen, this is what I am, and this is what
Yep.
I want to tell, and it has, the camera has switched the focus, and it's more on, okay, let me say, let me make it easy for you to understand what I am about. Let me make myself simple. Let me adapt to your language
Yes.
so you can comprehend me the way you like. So
That's
it's
100%.
yeah, it's
100%.
it's, it's gone up to that level. So okay, my last
So
question.
sorry,
Yes,
just to
yes,
add to
yes,
that point, and this
please.
is important, right? A lot of people like, I'm going to just hit this. What the hell is a brand? What is a brand, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't know, but the best way I've seen it put into words is from a creative director I used to work with, an incredible guy. In fact, he's the judge at the Cannes Lions Awards this year. He's a genius.
Wow.
And he said this, a brand, your brand, right, is a collection of all the physical things you have. So it could be the logo, it could be a truck, signage, whatever it is, right? That's your physical stuff. But then emotionally, a brand is the feeling generated every time someone touches your brand, whether it's a call, whether it's a WhatsApp, whether it's a page on site. Is that feeling going to make them feel delighted? Are they going to feel welcome? Are they going to feel not frustrated? Like there are so many banks that spend millions on
Oh,
advertising, on big TV
oh,
commercials, and then you call someone on their call center. That brand experience is the same experience, and you
yes.
kill millions of dollars worth of advertising because you have a poorly trained person on that
True,
call.
true,
That's
true.
branding.
That's branding. Everything's got to be consistent. So the
Yep.
emotions that exude in me when I check out your logo or your branding needs to be the same when I'm speaking to your tech support. There was this joke, okay, I came across. They're like, "Hey, listen, would you want to talk? Would you want to be on a dating site?" And
Yes.
this other guy replied saying, no, if I have to waste 2 hours and accomplish nothing, I'd rather call tech support. you know so
Yes.
that,
Yes.
that, that that's the kind of experience that we're having. So yes, of course, it's an important part that
Yeah.
CEOs of brands should definitely consider having a seamless experience, similar experience across all channels, and ensuring that consistency is maintained. Now, my
That's right.
last question for our podcast today is, um, three things being a solopreneur. So I have personally not seen many solopreneurs make it big. The only
Mm-hmm.
way I personally thought you could make it big is by having a team, by adopting technology, by doing this, and
I've
that's how
been
you
told that
do it.
too.
But
Yeah.
you have obviously changed my perception. I understand that you are by yourself and you do everything. You get your hands dirty. You're still making it big. So now
Yes.
this is for the other side of the worlds where people are trying to do that. What
Yes.
are your top three learnings that you'd like to share for people who are solopreneurs who want to make it big, scale up their businesses?
That's a great question because, I've often felt that I'm not doing the right thing by being a solopreneur. In fact, Michael was pushing me always to get a team, to be able to take on board work and hand it over, because then you have a machine generating money when you want to take 3 days off or a week off or go and travel, right?
Sure.
However, because I'm weird and I love my work, I approach it this way. And it's not for everyone. It's not
Yeah.
for everyone, right? But it works for me, which is I am like a concert pianist and I enjoy playing the piano. I'm not going to hire someone to play the piano for me. As I said, it doesn't work for everyone,
Of course.
but for me, I think my top three things on this are I become very close with people I work with. So my clients become friends. I learn from them all the time. And I've just been constantly working to sift out clients that weren't my ideal client. At first, I had to work on them because I needed the money, right? But as I got better clients and more people I became close to, I think that's the key thing. It's a relationship thing. So if you're going to be solopreneur, you've got to be the person's go-to person. You're not their slave. You meet as equals. And that is a big secret to it, because then that opens up number two, which is every client I work with that works well, I ask them for a review. And I think you've seen the reviews on my site.
I have.
Surprisingly amazing because I really work hard to make them happy, and I work really hard to make their business work well, because I know it's like a baby for them. They're investing everything into this business, and to me that's important, to not just do a logo because it needs a logo. No, if it's good and it'll work, we keep it as it is. We spend where we need to spend. That's super important. Number two. And then number three is staying in touch with those clients you have, because honestly, I don't, for instance, the Google stuff, I get, SEO people all the time saying, oh, we can make you higher up on Google. In my case, I don't need that because my clients are sending me referrals. So I do something for a client, they speak to some other CEO somewhere at a high level, and they introduce me to new people. That's where all my new clients come from, is referrals from my clients.
Existing clients.
Correct. And that is the best advertising you can ever get. And I'm very, very fortunate to have done this. I think it took me about 5 years or 4 years to get there, of hard slog. But I love what I do. So that I think that would be my three kind of insights into being a solopreneur. Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting.
Mm.
Well,
Mm.
Craig, I had a pleasure having this wonderful discussion with you. So meaty, so interesting, and I'm glad I could have you on the show, and I could share these insights with my fellow readers, viewers, wherever you're checking us out on. Okay, Craig, can you do us one last favor? If my viewers want to get in touch with you, what is the
Yes.
best way to do so?
Through elasticstudio.com. All one word, no dashes, nothing, just elasticstudio.com. All my work is there. All those things are there, and I have a contact information right there. So very easy.
Brilliant. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. This was the second episode of CEO Chronicles. Next week, we will be back with one other superstar who has scaled up his business, understanding his insights and his learnings. And till then, this is your content queen, Diksha, signing out. Until I see you next week, take care. Thank you so much.